I like Resident Evil 0, and you know what? I must be one of the only people on this planet that actually wants to see this game remade in the modern era. Sure, it's far from perfect and a bit of a slog to get through for reasons I'll get to shortly, but overall I find this entry to be a mostly gratifying experience. While the remaining 95% of you are probably looking at your screens in bewilderment right now, let me assure you, I get it. You probably hate this game, and if you don't hate it, you're either just okay with it, or simply not bothered about it. It's tough, it's stressful, it's annoying, it doesn't fit in with the rest of the series in places. I honestly get it. And while the majority of my satisfaction with the title admittedly stems from the game's overall atmosphere and juicy presentation and gunplay, which was mostly derived from the same year's godlike RE1 remake, there's no denying that Zero is far from a simple walk in the park. If looking after one character was stressful enough, Zero wants you to take care of two characters simultaneously this time around. The constant backtracking to collect previously dropped items and equipment due to the lack of the series' signature item boxes is a real pain in the ass. And the story takes a questionable turn to the point it alienated much of its fanbase. More on all this later. But hot damn, this is just it! If there's just one game in the mainline series that I feel needs to be reshaped, repackaged, and re-injected with coherency, ingenuity, and love, it's this game. Now let's face it, at this very moment, there's a good chance Capcom are already hard at work on the next Resident Evil remake, and there's an even bigger chance that you watching are wanting to see Code Veronica be the next RE game to receive the remake treatment. One need only look online to see that the vast majority of RE fans wants to see one of the series' most difficult and polarizing entries brought back to life and up to date alongside Resident Evils 2, 3 and 4. Now some say that Capcom are more likely to focus their attention with regards to remakes only on the original numbered titles in the series, that already proved to be financial successes when first released. Not too long ago, Capcom had gone on to say that they're, quote, carrying out discussions regarding the future expansion of the series so that it can be enjoyed. Now, as typically vague as this sounds, could this statement mean non-numbered titles such as Code Veronica or even the online co-op Outbreak games stand a chance of seeing the light of day once more? Or is this just some typical corporate talk that actually means RE5 Remake is coming next? Let us know what you think in the comments. Whatever the case may be, there's no denying fans are pining harder for Code Veronica than any other entry in the series right now. The question is, why? What is it about this entry that the vast majority of RE fans wants to see remade next? It's gotta be everybody's favourite convict, Steve, right? Haha, no.
Relax, beautiful. Ow! My back! Shut up! I don't want to talk about it! We made it! Yahoo! I swear I'll protect you next time, Claire.
As briefly touched on earlier, Code Veronica is far from a walk in the park, with challenging puzzles, some confusing locations, unrelenting enemies, and certain bosses that are about as easy to get through as a marine obstacle course. Code Veronica isn't just hard, it's intimidating, especially for those who are about as competent with the OG's tank controls as this guy right here. Now I love me some Code Veronica, it happens to be my third favourite RE game of all time, but just look at the beginning of the game where Claire first encounters a zombie. Scratch that. Hordes of zombies. Good luck getting out of this predicament on your first playthrough without Claire being munched on like a packet of dry roasted peanuts. There's a lot of RE fans out there who have opted to watch playthroughs online of Code Veronica to save themselves the likely possibility of throwing a huge wobbler at the game's many daunting set pieces and tasks. Remaking Code Veronica for modern audiences would allow fans who were put off by the original's merciless and daunting tasks to now experience a more stress-free and manageable title with up-to-date control mechanics and more forgiving gameplay, leaving a lot of stress out the window in the process, not to mention giving fans of the original a new experience of an already fondly looked at game. And while the original Code Veronica's gameplay can even test the most hardened of RE fans, the story however is more coherent, taking clear inspiration from the likes of Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, interspersed with numerous zombie movies.
What? No! Wait a second. What just happened?
The series took a bit of a change of direction with this approach, and so it's hard to argue that Code Veronica is absolutely filled with entertaining, daft, and memorable moments that are still looked fondly on to this day.
Have it your way, then. You're just a rat in a cage anyway. I'll be sure to keep you entertained before I dispose of you.
But you know what? A lot of this sounds an awful lot like another Resident Evil game that has about the same amount of challenges in its gameplay, as well as some ludicrous story elements that took the series in a slightly different direction, and it's a game I believe should be remade before Code Veronica. And that game is, of course,
Resident Evil 0.
So what would a remake of Resident Evil 0 look like exactly? Before we get there, while it's likely that you are looking to see Code Veronica given the next remake treatment, or perhaps even RE5 or Outbreak, I find that in doing so, would be a huge missed opportunity in the long term. Now look, let's face it, the next remake is probably going to be Code Veronica. I'm not fucking delusional, but I feel we need to lay out some groundwork in 0 before we get there. Resident Evil 0 was when this series started to go a little loopy, at least more so than usual. Capcom experimented hard with this outing and the result ended up pissing a lot of people off. Having to manage two characters at the same time, as previously mentioned, in the forms of STARS member and medic Rebecca Chambers, as well as supposed convict and Ray Liotta / DiCaprio inspired Billy Cohen, meant that you were more on guard and stressed out than ever before. As a result then, managing stock between characters meant that it felt like you were playing half the game in your inventory, and with no storage chests available this time around, leaving items scattered about the place and backtracking more times than you could count only added to the player's stress levels. On top of all this, fending off against the unrelenting enemy variations like the fucking baboons and leechmen, especially when dealing with the game's less than perfect artificial intelligence with regards to your unmanned partner, meant that stress levels often hit the roof. It's no wonder why people choose to give this entry a wide berth, based on the control and combat mechanics alone.
It's gonna be dangerous from here on in. Why don't we cooperate?
Cooperate with you?
Capcom could rectify these annoyances in a remake by simply bringing back storage boxes and having the player take control of just one character at a time. Simple. Much like the OG, you could have Billy act as the brawn, taking care of most of the combat and physical works, while Rebecca acts as the brains, solving puzzles and navigating areas inaccessible to Billy. As an even bolder idea, perhaps Billy could act as the main protagonist, while Rebecca acted as a familiar character you ran into from time to time.
Alright, Miss Do-It-Yourself. What should I call you?
The name is Rebecca Chambers, but that's Officer Chambers to you.
It began as a simple investigation of some bizarre murders in the suburbs of Raccoon City.
Or how about this for an idea? What about doing away with Billy and Rebecca altogether, and instead having the player take control of a member or members of the STARS Bravo team? This could also give more context and backstory to the unit, which I feel is sorely needed. How about playing as Forrest before his death at the hands of the Crows in RE1? Or what about Kenneth before being jumped on by the famous first zombie in the series? Now there's an idea to chew on.
Get away from me! No! Hey! No!
Now in terms of the narrative, there's the lullaby leech shit. Talk about loopy, right? Now I don't know about you guys, but when I first experienced this Final Fantasy character atop of a cliff singing commands to these annoying little savages like some kind of operatic Pied Piper during the game's intro, I can remember vividly feeling like I was in a completely different series, and in truth, I've never been able to shake this feeling off to this day. It all felt too fantastical, you know what I mean? And a little off from grounded in reality than I personally would have liked. And remember, this game originally released after Wesker's enhanced powers became apparent in Code Veronica. but I think one can still justify this as being more grounded and believable, at least when compared to this shit. So in doing away with commanding leeches for something far less sillier, we also need to change certain elements of the fundamental story in order for certain events in RE1 Remake to make more sense. For example, of course I'm largely referring to Rebecca's helplessness from a pursuing hunter, when she had already gone through her own hell with Billy just hours earlier. Now some like to cover for Capcom here and say that Rebecca was too fatigued to fend for herself after the events of Zero. Yeah, I can see that, but no, don't even go there. Because let's face it, Capcom fucked this up.
It just doesn't make sense. Do you honestly believe this to be the real identity of that crazy young man? Impossible.
Now here's the main reason why I believe a remake of Zero should come before a remake of Code Veronica. I believe we need to re-establish who Albert Wesker is in the remake series before being reintroduced to the more genetically enhanced version of himself in Code Veronica and 5. We've only just gotten a real taste of the Wesker character with the recent RE4 remake, and if Capcom plans to keep 2002's Resident Evil 1 remake as part of this new series, Resident Evil's most important antagonist needs way more screen time to make an impact in a Code Veronica remake. That's where Zero comes in. If we're going to see a more weaponized Wesker in Code Veronica, whose relationship with Chris has become beyond heated, it would make more sense then to first see the beginnings of Wesker in Zero, don't you think? Perhaps even his relationship with his team through cutscenes or even flashbacks. The possibilities are ripe for the plucking. Just imagine revisiting the Spencer mansion via the body cams of the Bravo team, not too far off with what we experienced in Resident Evil 7 with the cassette tapes. Perhaps you could even combine the events of 0 and 1 to make a true definitive and cohesive beginning. Resident Evil Ground Zero. That doesn't sound too bad. What do you guys think? Do you think it makes more sense to remake Zero first? Or perhaps you feel Zero should just be forgotten about and go ahead with a remake for Code Veronica? Whatever your thoughts or ideas, sound off in the comments, and please like this video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this, as well as much more in the future, and I will see you all very soon.